All right. So, we're going to take a deep dive into all this stuff you sent me about Hugging Face.
Okay.
I have to admit, when I first heard the name Hugging Face, I kind of pictured like,
Right.
something out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
But, looking through this material, it seems like it's actually a lot more down to earth and useful than I, initially imagined.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common misconception. People hear Hugging Face and they think cutting edge AI, which it is, but it's also super practical.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as like a giant online toolbox
Okay.
for anyone who wants to build with AI or use AI or even just understand it better.
So we're talking way more than just like pre-built websites or something.
Oh, yeah, way more than that.
Okay.
Hugging Face is all about giving people access to these really sophisticated AI models.
Right.
Things that can like write different kinds of creative text formats and translate languages and even analyze images.
Yeah.
But what's really cool is that they don't keep these models locked away.
Yeah.
They're all about making them open and available.
Wait, so you're telling me that instead of like some big tech company keeping all this awesome AI tech to themselves, Hugging Face is just like giving it away?
Pretty much.
Why would they do that?
Well, that's what's so revolutionary about them.
Right.
They really believe that the more people who have access to these tools,
Yeah.
the more innovation we'll see.
Okay.
And they're not just giving away the finished product, they're giving away the blueprints,
Yeah.
the code.
Right.
So you can actually see how these models work and tweak them and build your own.
Okay, that's where I start to get a little lost.
Sure.
I'm picturing myself knee-deep in code, like trying to build a robot butler or something.
Yeah. You laugh,
Yeah.
but that's not as far-fetched as you might think.
Really?
But you definitely don't need to be a coding whiz to use Hugging Face.
Okay.
One of their most popular features is this thing called the Transformers Library.
Oh.
You can think of it as like a giant library filled with all these pre-trained AI models, and each one is specialized for a specific task.
So instead of building a robot butler from scratch, I could just like borrow the Butley model and customize it?
Exactly. And the customization part is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Especially for someone like you. I know you're always coming up with all these creative projects.
Right.
Imagine taking a model that's already good at writing
Yeah.
and training it on like your favorite sci-fi novels or something.
You're telling me I could create an AI that writes
Like, you absolutely could.
my favorite author.
Yeah. Or you could use a model to analyze all those podcast scripts you have, identify recurring themes, or maybe even suggest new episode ideas.
Wow.
The potential is huge.
Okay, you're blowing my mind a little here.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, if these models are so powerful and so readily available, why isn't every company using them?
Well, a lot of companies are using them. But one of Hugging Face's biggest strengths is that they're not just focused on these big corporations.
Right.
Their platform is built for anybody, individual developers and small businesses. Even people like you who just want to explore what's possible with AI.
So it's not all about like building killer robots.
Not at all.
What are some like real world applications that someone like me could wrap their head around?
Okay, well, think about all the information you have to process every day. Articles and social media posts and emails.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a model on Hugging Face that can summarize all of that for you.
Oh, wow.
It can extract the key points in like seconds.
That would actually be super useful,
Right.
Especially with like the amount of research that goes into each of these deep dives. Like a summarization tool would be a lifesaver.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just summarizing.
Okay.
Imagine you're working on a blog post and you just hit a wall.
Yeah.
You could use one of these text generation models to help you brainstorm ideas or even generate whole paragraphs based on a prompt.
So instead of staring at a blank page, I could have an AI writing partner.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, that's wild.
And what's even wilder is that Hugging Face is always evolving.
Okay.
They're adding new models all the time. They're expanding into areas like image and speech recognition.
Wow.
And they even have this platform called Spaces where users can share their AI creations with the world.
Wait, so you're saying I could potentially take one of these models, customize it for, say, like my podcast, and then share it with listeners through this Spaces thing?
You absolutely could. And that's really the beauty of the Hugging Face ecosystem.
Okay.
It's not just about using AI. It's about sharing it and collaborating and making these tools accessible to everyone.
Okay, I'm starting to, like, this whole open source thing.
Yeah.
It seems like the opposite of how most tech companies operate. Everyone's hoarding their secrets and trying to, like, outdo each other.
It really is a breath of fresh air. And this spirit of collaboration goes way beyond just the tech.
Okay.
The Hugging Face community is so active and supportive.
Yeah.
It's people from all walks of life sharing their knowledge and answering questions and just helping each other learn and grow.
So it's less like secret society and more like open source party.
Exactly.
I like that.
And that's really what makes Hugging Face so exciting.
Okay.
They're breaking down the barriers to AI.
Yeah.
And making it accessible and understandable for everybody.
So are you saying I'm ready to explore this model hub and see what treasures I can unearth?
I think you are.
Honestly, I'm a little intimidated.
Sure.
But mostly I'm just really curious.
Yeah.
Let's see what this model hub is all about.
Okay. So the model hub, it's like walking into this huge library.
Okay.
But instead of books, you've got thousands of these AI models,
right,
all trained to do different things.
Okay, I'm already feeling a little overwhelmed just thinking about it. How do you even begin to navigate a place like that?
Well, the good news is Hugging Face has made the model hub really user-friendly. You can search by task like text summarization or image generation, or you can browse by popularity or recent uploads. They've even got this cool feature where you can filter by language, which I know is something you're interested in with all your international collaborations.
That is incredibly useful. I can already see how this could be like a game changer for finding the right tools for different projects.
Yeah.
But let's say I find a model that looks promising. What then do I need to download it, install it, sacrifice a USB drive to the tech gods?
No, nothing quite that dramatic. Hugging Face actually offers a couple different ways to use these models.
Okay.
One is through their inference API, which basically lets you send data to the model and get results back without having to do any of the heavy lifting yourself.
So it's like ordering takeout instead of cooking.
Exactly.
I send my data to the AI chef and they send back the finished product.
Perfect analogy.
I like it.
And then for more complex projects, you can use their Spaces platform, which we touched on a little earlier.
Right.
Spaces lets you actually host and run models directly on Hugging Face's servers.
Wow.
So it makes it super easy to share your AI creations with the world.
So if I wanted to create a tool that analyzes podcast scripts for specific themes, I could build it using a Hugging Face model, host it on Spaces, and then make it available to other podcasters.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of this whole Hugging Face ecosystem. It's not just about using AI.
Right.
It's about sharing it and collaborating and making these tools accessible to everybody.
Okay, I have to admit, this whole open source thing is starting to grow on me. It feels like the opposite of the typical tech world,
Right.
Where everyone's hoarding their secrets and trying to outdo each other.
It's a total breath of fresh air. And this spirit of collaboration, it actually extends beyond just the technology.
Oh, really?
The Hugging Face community is so active and supportive. I mean, you've got people from all walks of life sharing their knowledge, answering questions, and just helping each other learn and grow.
That's really cool. So it's not just about downloading a model and figuring it out on your own.
No, not at all.
There's a whole community ready to help you along the way.
Exactly. And that community aspect is so crucial.
Yeah.
Especially for someone like you who's always eager to dive into new things.
I do love a good deep dive.
Yeah.
But I gotta ask, with all this talk about making AI accessible, are there any downsides to this open approach?
Sure.
I mean, couldn't someone use these models for malicious purposes?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. And like any powerful technology, AI can definitely be misused.
Right.
But Hugging Face is very aware of this, and they're actively working to promote responsible AI practices within their community.
Okay.
So they have guidelines for ethical development. They encourage transparency in how models are trained.
Right.
And they're constantly working to identify and mitigate potential risks.
So it's not a perfect system.
No.
But at least they're trying to build in some safeguards.
Yes.
And encourage ethical use.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that really sets Hugging Face apart from a lot of other players in the AI field.
Okay.
They're not just focused on building the most powerful tools, they're also thinking about the ethical implications.
Right.
And making sure they're used for good.
I appreciate that it's refreshing to see a company taking responsibility for the potential impact of their technology.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the more practical side of things for a second.
Sorry.
You mentioned earlier that Hugging Face is expanding beyond just text-based models.
Right.
What other areas are they exploring?
Well, one area that's really taking off is computer vision.
Okay.
Which is all about enabling computers to see and interpret images.
Right.
Imagine a model that can automatically tag all your photos.
Okay.
Or one that can detect specific objects in a video feed.
So instead of me spending hours scrolling through photos trying to find that one perfect shot for the podcast, I could just have an AI do it for me.
You got it. Or imagine you're a filmmaker.
Right.
And you need to analyze hours and hours of footage.
Yeah.
You could use a computer vision model to automatically identify like key scenes or characters.
That would save so much time.
Right.
Okay, now we're talking my language.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of real-world applications that get me excited.
I hear you.
What about speech recognition? Are they doing anything in that realm?
Absolutely. They have models that can transcribe speech to text.
Okay.
Translate languages in real time, and even generate synthetic speech that sounds incredibly realistic.
Wait, so I could potentially use a Hugging Face model to create a real-time translator for my podcast, allowing me to interview guests from all over the world without any language barriers?
You absolutely could, and think about the potential for accessibility.
Right.
These speech recognition models could be used to create tools for people with disabilities that would allow them to communicate and interact with technology in whole new ways.
This is all incredibly exciting, but I have to admit, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the sheer scale of what Hugging Face is doing.
Yeah.
It's almost too much to comprehend.
It is mind-boggling. But here's the thing. You don't need to understand everything about Hugging Face
Okay.
to start using it and benefiting from it.
Right.
It's like exploring a vast forest. You don't need to map out every single tree to appreciate its beauty and discover its hidden treasures.
Okay, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's about the journey of discovery, not the destination.
Right.
But I'm curious, with all this talk about the present and future of Hugging Face, where did it all begin?
Well, that's a good question.
What's the origin story of this company that's seemingly revolutionizing the AI world?
Well, the funny thing is, Hugging Face didn't start out with this grand vision of, like, democratizing AI.
Really?
They were initially focused on building a chatbot app for teenagers.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
From teenage chatbots to the forefront of AI research, that's quite a leap.
It is a pretty big leap, but along the way, they stumbled upon something much bigger.
Yeah.
They realized that the underlying technology they were using for their chatbot had the potential to be so much more.
So they pivoted. They took a teenage chatbot and turned it into this global AI powerhouse.
Exactly. They recognized the power of open source development.
Okay.
And they saw an opportunity to make AI more accessible and collaborative. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Okay. That's an incredible story. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest innovations come from the most unexpected places.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm curious, with all this success, where do they go from here? What does the future hold for Hugging Face?
Yeah. That's the question everybody's asking, and it's got the whole AI community buzzing with anticipation.
Yeah.
One thing that's clear is that Hugging Face isn't content with just maintaining the status quo.
Right.
They're constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible, experimenting with new technologies, and exploring new frontiers in AI research.
So they're not just resting on their laurels, they're still actively pushing the envelope.
Absolutely. They're investing heavily in research and development.
Okay.
They're collaborating with universities and industry leaders.
Yeah.
And constantly looking for ways to make AI more powerful, efficient, and accessible.
That's inspiring. It's like they've caught the wave of innovation and they're riding it all the way to the shore.
I like that.
But I'm curious, with all this focus on technology, do they ever stop and think about the ethical considerations surrounding AI?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of talk about potential bias in these models.
Right.
And the need for responsible development.
They absolutely do. In fact, Hugging Face is considered a leader in the ethical AI movement.
Oh, wow.
They've actually developed tools for bias detection.
Okay.
They're actively working to promote transparency in how models are trained. And they're constantly engaging with the community to discuss and address ethical concerns. They even have a dedicated team
Really?
focused solely on responsible AI development.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive. It shows that they're not just blindly pushing forward with technology. They're taking the time to consider the potential consequences.
Yeah.
And ensure that AI is used for good.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that makes me so optimistic about the future of AI.
Yeah.
Especially with companies like Hugging Face.
Yeah.
Leading the way. They're showing the world that it's possible to develop powerful AI tools
Right.
that are both innovative and ethical.
Right. So we've talked about the model hub,
Yeah.
open source philosophy, the community,
Right.
the practical applications and the ethical considerations.
You've covered a lot of ground.
But let's bring it back to our listener for a second.
Okay.
What does all of this mean for someone who's just starting to explore the world of Hugging Face and AI?
Well, I think the most important takeaway is that Hugging Face is a tool for everyone.
Okay.
It's not just for programmers or data scientists.
Right.
It's a platform for creativity and exploration and problem solving. Whether you're a writer, a musician, an entrepreneur, or just someone who's curious about the potential of AI, there's something on Hugging Face for you.
So it's not about being a tech wizard. It's about having a curious mind and a willingness to explore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that you don't have to do it alone.
You're right.
The Hugging Face community is filled with people who are eager to help share their knowledge and welcome newcomers.
Yeah.
It's a truly collaborative and supportive environment.
I love that it feels like we're all on this exciting journey of discovery together.
We are. And with Hugging Face leading the way, I'm confident that the future of AI is bright, inclusive, and full of incredible possibilities.
Okay, my brain is officially buzzing with all this Hugging Face info we've covered so much, you know, from the model hub to open source and even ethical AI.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it is. But I keep coming back to like this one question.
Okay.
How can our listener actually start using this stuff? Where's the entry point for someone who's not, you know, a coding genius?
Well, that's the great thing about Hugging Face. You don't have to be a coding whiz to get started.
Okay.
Remember all those pre-trained models we talked about? They're basically ready to use right out of the box.
Right. But there are like thousands of them.
Yeah.
It's like staring at a menu with like 10,000 dishes. How do you even choose?
Okay, well, think about it this way. What's one thing that you wish you could automate in your work or even in your personal life?
Honestly, I spend way too much time reading research articles for these deep dives. If there was a way to like get the gist of an article without having to read every single word,
right,
that would be like a game changer.
Well, you're in luck because there are actually text summarization models on Hugging Face that can do exactly that.
Really?
You just feed them an article and they'll give you a concise summary that highlights all the key points.
Wow.
No need to read the whole thing unless something really catches your eye.
Seriously, that sounds almost too good to be true.
I know, right? And it's surprisingly easy to use.
Okay.
Hugging Face has these tools called the Inference API and Spaces.
Right.
That basically let you interact with these models without writing a single line of code.
So it's like having a personal AI assistant.
Exactly.
That understands my needs.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So just to recap.
Yeah.
You could find a text summarization model on the Hugging Face Model Hub.
Oh.
Use the Inference API or Spaces to run it. And boom, you've got summaries of all those research articles.
That's incredible.
And once you get comfortable with the basics, you can start exploring other models and even experimenting with customizing them.
Okay.
But even without any coding knowledge, you can access some really powerful AI tools.
This whole thing is really like blowing my mind. It feels like we're on the verge of something huge here.
It is pretty amazing.
Like anyone can have access to these tools that were once reserved for, you know, like big tech companies and research labs.
I know that's the power of Hugging Face and the whole open source movement.
Right.
It's all about democratizing AI and putting these powerful tools in the hands of everyday people.
Yeah, and the best part is it still feels like early days.
It really is.
Who knows what incredible innovations we'll see as more people get involved.
It's exciting to think about.
It is. But, you know, speaking of the future, what about the ethical side of all this? We talked about bias and responsible AI.
Right.
But it still feels like kind of a Wild West out there.
Yeah, there are definitely some challenges and concerns, but Hugging Face is really committed to addressing these issues.
Right.
They're promoting transparency in model development, encouraging conversations about the ethical implications, and they're even building tools to help detect and mitigate bias.
So they're not just like throwing these powerful tools out into the world and hoping for the best.
Definitely not. They're taking a very proactive approach to ethical AI, making sure these technologies are used responsibly and for the benefit of everyone.
That's good to hear. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of all this new tech.
Right.
But it's important to remember the human element, the potential impact on society, and the need for those ethical guidelines.
Absolutely. And that's why I believe Hugging Face is such an important player in this whole AI landscape. They're not just focused on the tech. They're also committed to building a more inclusive and equitable AI ecosystem.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of Hugging Face. I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
We have, and that's the most exciting part.
Right.
This is just the beginning. Hugging Face is constantly evolving. The whole AI landscape is changing, and the potential for innovation is limitless.
So for our listener who's been with us on this journey, what's the one key takeaway about Hugging Face?
I would say Hugging Face is a tool for everyone. It's a platform for exploration and discovery.
Okay.
Don't be intimidated by the technology or all the jargon. Just jump in. Explore the Model Hub. Play around with some models and see what sparks your imagination.
Yeah.
You might be surprised at what you discover, and who knows, you might even build the next great AI-powered tool.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of Hugging Face. We hope you learned something new, had some aha moments, and maybe even feel inspired to explore the world of AI for yourself. Thanks for joining us.